Any large store must limit the number of people in the store at one time to no more than 4 customers for every 1,000 square feet of customer floor space. Smaller stores have to limit foot traffic to 25% of the total occupancy limits. Big box stores will also have to close areas of the store that are dedicated to things like carpet or flooring, furniture, garden centers, plant nurseries, or paint. If you're not buying food or medicine or other essential items, you should not be going to the store.
Page 2 now, Michigan madness. This governor of the Wolverine state, this Gretchen Whitmer, there's something not right about her. You can see it in her eyes. She's issuing these hyper-constitutional orders, crushing the rights of Michigan residents with glee. Whitmer is forcing people to stay in their homes and is making it illegal to gather in groups of any size for any reason. This is an outright assault on fundamental First Amendment rights, but it's also depressing. These decrees and edicts from blue state and blue city elected officials are scaring the living daylights out of tens of millions of Americans, scaring them to death, literally. Joining me now from Malibu, California, forensic psychiatrist and Daily Ledger contributor, Dr. Carole Lieberman, MD. Doctor, New York, in particular, has seen a surge in calls to the suicide hotline. I think one day in March, they had a surge of somewhere in order of 50%. And you and I, we've talked about this new syndrome that you've coined called Covicide. Yeah, basically, it's a blend of the COVID-19 and suicide. Unfortunately, it's a new syndrome, but it's real. The President of the United States has been trying to talk about this, and all some people can do in the American Psychological Association is criticize the President for talking about this.
Yes, everything's getting politicized, and it's as if we're living in the middle of some kind of science fiction movie. I mean, no one would have believed that we could all be forced to do all of these things, and it is having a horrendous toll. We're all thinking about how many deaths there are going to be from COVID, but how many deaths are there going to be from mental illness, and notably from suicide? You mentioned New York. One of the reasons why there are going to continue to be more and more suicides is because we're doing more testing. So more people are coming up positive, of course, and there have been suicides related to finding out that they're positive. In other words, they're taking it as a death sentence.
Right.
Like the disease is no longer cancer, it's coronavirus. And so, for example, there was a man in the Bronx who did suicide by cop because he had just found out that he was positive and he wanted to die, and he had cops tried to get cops to kill him. Then there was a man in a hospital in Manhattan who was there for cancer, and when he found out that he was positive for coronavirus, he hanged himself. I mean, these kinds of cases, and then, of course, there are couples there was a suicide, homicide, because the man thought that they were positive and they weren't actually, but he killed his wife and then himself. I mean, these stories are going to be multiplying the longer this goes on.
And they are real. And that's why on this program I emphasize that there is a 98% success rate in terms of recovering from this virus. And it may be even higher than that, statistically speaking. We don't know for sure. I mean, this thing, again, Carole, Doctor, there's evidence that this thing has been in our society for many, many months. And many people have recovered. They didn't even know that they have it. But it's not just the suicide either. Or it's not just because of committing suicide because people believe they have the virus. It's depression, right? It's anxiety. It's this overload from the mainstream media that comes out. There's a particular network that comes out every day and scares the living daylights out of people.
Yes, absolutely. The message from the mainstream media is you're all going to die. And I think the main, these increases in statistics in calls to suicide hotlines and in calls to 911 for threats and attempts at suicide have doubled and tripled. And it's not because of the coronavirus necessarily. It's because of the isolation. It's because, I mean, so many factors are going to be increasing. The financial impact is increasing. You know, you may have had a little money put aside, not that many Americans had that, but you may have had some. And the longer this goes on, and these calls to the suicide hotlines increased after lockdowns. It wasn't necessarily specifically related to coronavirus.
Right.
It was related to the forced lockdown, like in prisons, you know, solitary confinement.
Doctor, I only have 10 seconds left. Are you concerned, as I am, that this social distancing and all the other mitigation that we're seeing out there may have changed, may have forced a paradigm change on our society for who knows how long? I mean, I'm talking people don't shake hands anymore. They don't hug anymore. They swerve away. People you pass who are your neighbors treat you like you are some sort of criminal of an invisible crime. I hate this.
Yes, yes. And then we had Dr. Fauci just the other day saying that after this, people shouldn't shake hands anymore. I mean, that is the worst piece of advice that he could give. Not out of character, but the worst piece of advice. We need this contact. We need touching. We need hugs and all of that. Otherwise, the death rate, even after coronavirus is over, the suicides are going to continue.
That's right. And I also asked the question, how many people have government killed by these draconian edicts at the state and local level? Again, it's something we'll probably never know. Dr. Lieberman, thank you. Coming up.